in a weird spot right now. I don't feel like I've fallen off track. However, I seem to be being made aware that there are things within me, subconscious things, that I'm not completely aware of. Surprise, surprise. And I'm still not completely sure even what those things are. It just seems to be a recurring theme that there are things working in the backgrounds of my mind, controlling or influencing certain actions in ways that I thought that I had grown from already, that I had resolved already. As I've discussed in a previous video in my little Artist Way series, I had an interview that I don't think went well. I did not show up confident, most likely because, or, pretty much because this was the second time I was interviewing for this job, and obviously I didn't get it the first time. So I sort of went in with that mindset of apparently there was something I didn't do enough of, I wasn't enough of last time, even though I showed up very authentically. I know I could have prepared more, which I did do this time, but again, there was like that I moved forward with that energy of, well, the last time when I thought I was confident, I didn't get it. The last time when I thought I had it, I didn't get it. So, yeah, I would like to believe that everything happens for a reason and yada, 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 yada. But it's hard to believe that it wasn't something that I didn't do, Like, it's hard to believe that I did everything that I could have in that situation. I didn't step into that room confidently, I didn't make a lot of eye contact, and it's not like I was feeling nervous the whole morning. I only started feeling nervous once I got to the place, which seems to be a theme. All that to say, again, essentially, I feel like there are certain things that are running in the background that seem to be coming out at the worst times, And with that quote unquote, fail of an interview sort of thing, it's brought up a lot of past memories of supposed missed opportunities, and some of them I didn't even realize, or it's not that I didn't realize, but I hadn't thought about them in a while, about how that may or may not have been a missed opportunity, And it's sort of been causing this spiral of where would I be, had I had I known better, had I done better, etc., etc., etc. And I know I can't do anything about those things now. I think a big thing is my lack of presence in those moments. Hindsight's always 20/20. And I don't understand why I didn't know better in those situations, And it's not just things like interviews, it's like mistakes I've made within interpersonal relationships that have, irreparable damage, pretty much. Things that you can't come back from. And it's really crazy to look back, and I just wonder where my mind was and where that came from. But I know I'm at a place now where a lot of the lessons that I've learned up to this point, I have the knowledge. I'm just in the phase where we're applying it and solidifying it. And I would like to think that this whole interview thing is just another testing ground, I want to say. A testing ground, another thing just to make me aware of what's going on rather than something that I really missed out on, I guess. With all this reflection on supposed missed opportunities and all that, there's another thing that has resurfaced. I don't know what exactly prompted me to do this exercise, but I think it was a video where they pretty much told you to go back and sort of think about your favorite childhood movies and the protagonists and how you relate to them. You know, what do these movies say about the person you are, pretty much? Like, you have an affinity to them for a reason. And in this case, one of my all-time Hall of Fame movies for me is Labyrinth with David Bowie, and I think it's Jennifer Connelly or something like that. David Bowie, he's in it. If you know the movie, pretty much she's going through this maze and her whole thing is to get to the center so that she can save her little brother who was taken by the Goblin King, etc., etc. And you can tell from the beginning that she's very naive and she's very childlike. The big thing that's standing out to me with that film is she's going through this maze, which is constantly changing. The turns, the openings, they're constantly rearranging themselves with each step that she takes. There's so many unfair advantages or unfair circumstances that are thrown her way. She takes pretty much every wrong turn known to man in that fucking maze. And yet, she still reaches the center. She still reaches the center. She still grows through the process, and she still holds on to that innocence while maturing through the journey, you know? There were so many times where if she would have just went left, she would have went straight to the castle, you know? Or if she would have just made this turn, if she would have just, you know, there were so many times where she missed her opportunity to get that straight path to the center of the center of the labyrinth. I think I said center of the castle. Center of the labyrinth, you know? She would have gotten there much quicker, blah, 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 blah. She would have missed all of the... But yeah, and that's the thing as well. Had she taken those, you know, straightway turns or whatever, she would have missed the opportunity to make all of the friends, to meet all of the characters that she did along her journey. She would have missed a lot of opportunities that influenced her growth throughout her journey through the labyrinth, to the center of the labyrinth. She would have missed out on a lot of that. So maybe, again, it happened exactly how it was, with all the unfair, I keep wanting to say unfair advantages. And I don't think that's an accident. I think, again, taking this this realization, we'll say, that maybe all those missed opportunities were purposeful. Maybe they all had a purpose. Maybe they were actually serving as an advantage to her. She wasn't just journeying to the center of the labyrinth to get her brother back. She was growing as a person. She was growing as a person. She never lost sight of her goal, but she gained so much more going through the journey the way she did, you know? She learned to trust herself. And she, through trusting herself, also influenced other characters. She was an example for other characters. All the ways in which certain characters tried to convince her to turn back. And her determination, that was not even an option for her. It was never going to be an option for her to turn back. It was never going to be an option for her to turn back. And in turn, I believe she was always going to make it to the center. No matter how many wrong turns, no matter how many unfair advantages, you know? And the whole time, the Jareth guy, the Goblin King, who's at the center of the labyrinth, who took her baby brother, all of that, his whole strategy to keep her from reaching the center of the labyrinth was to convince her to turn back by all these various means, by other characters, by cutting her time short. She had 13 hours to reach the center of the labyrinth, and at some point he even cut her time short. He did everything in his power to make her feel powerless, and at the end she realizes he has no power over her. She's always been powerful. She was always going to make it to the center, and I think he knew that as well. He knew his only power was to make her lose faith in herself. That was the only thing he could do. All that to say, you'll find your way. I will find a way. I'll find a way. It's already happening. It is already happening. I know it's already happening. I trust myself. I wouldn't have gotten here to where I am now, to be the person that I am today, had I not trusted myself. And yes, I trust in benevolent forces, that also are assisting me and helping me, guiding me and leading me. I'm not alone in this. We're never alone in this. It doesn't matter how many wrong turns you take. It doesn't matter how many wrong turns I take. As long as you don't give up, you're gonna get to where you're going. You're gonna get to where you're going. And at my core, I trust that. Even when I am simultaneously frustrated and confused and feel like I'm wandering around in the dark, I do trust that somehow, some way, things are gonna work out. Somehow, some way, things are gonna work out. And that just is what it is. And I'll learn. I'll grow throughout the experience. You'll find a way. We'll find a way. Everything is gonna be okay. It may not seem like that, and that's alright. You're allowed to feel your feelings. You're allowed to be skeptical. But I want to invite us to keep our hearts open, to not shut down, to not turn back, no matter how many unfair advantages are placed in our way. No matter how many unfair advantages are placed in our way. I think a lot about, how far I would be had I had the perfect childhood. But had I had the perfect childhood, I wouldn't have the perspective that I have now. I wouldn't have the gratitude that I have for the things and the work that it takes to pull yourself out of really dark places. To grow, to make better decisions despite the examples that you were given. Of course I would be a lot farther along, and maybe I wouldn't. All in all, I'm grateful for my journey thus far. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful to be the person that I am. I'm grateful to think like I do. I'm grateful to see the world like I do. It's taken a lot of work to befriend myself, to love myself the way that I do now. That's not going anywhere. I trust myself. I trust myself. It's a little hard not to feel angry at myself for, again, the perceived missed opportunities, the perceived lack of, I guess, initiative and determination that I may have had in the past. And I know it's up to me now to make different decisions. And I am making different decisions. I'm making a lot of different decisions. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm trusting myself. I'm listening to myself more than ever. This is the time where we solidify the lessons and the knowledge that we've gained. This is the time where we apply it and it's turned into wisdom. It's that muscle is strengthened, that muscle of trusting ourselves, that muscle of listening to ourselves, that muscle of applying and sticking to our boundaries, not backing down from what we believe in, not looking to anybody else to validate what we know inside of ourselves is true. You'll find your way. You'll find your way. I'll find my way. We're gonna do this together. We just are. It already is. It already is. You don't need to know how everything is gonna unfold. You don't. You don't need to know how everything is gonna unfold. I actually found a piece of writing that, oddly enough, had to do with a maze. So I'm gonna go get it and I'll read it. I need to learn to just be. Stop judging myself for my own desires, questioning my own wisdom. And it is wisdom now. I've played this game before. But do you remember the maze once you're in it? And just in case you needed a reminder, have no fear moving into the unknown. Simply step out fearlessly, knowing that I am with you. Therefore, no harm can befall you. Let your future shine brightly. All is very well. Well, I think that was a perfect way to end this. I'm glad I stopped and talked with you today. And I hope you got something from this. That really is like a big part of why I make these. A big part of it is for me, because I like talking. But I also feel like I know I'm not the only one out here that is feeling these things, that is thinking these things, and who needs a reminder, you know? So, whoever you are, even if it's just me, I love you, and I trust you. I know that you'll find a way. You're gonna get there. You're gonna get there. You don't need to know exactly how. Just take time to stop and listen. Sometimes the best thing you can do is slow down. Even just for a second. You're not alone. You are never alone. Okay. Take care.